Lord, make me a means of your peace.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Catholics Today. I'm Blue Rolfes, Director of the Office of Communications of the Diocese of Lafayette. We appreciate you joining us today. Our topic today is a very exciting performance that's being brought to Lafayette through the Office of Black Catholics of the Diocese of Lafayette, and it's called Tolton, From Slave to Priest. And to tell us more about this exciting play, we have invited Stephanie Bernard to join us, Director of the Office of Black Catholics of the Diocese of Lafayette. Stephanie, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is going to be such an exciting, wonderful thing for all of Acadiana to welcome coming up this fall. Tell us a little bit about who is Father Augustus Tolton.
Father Augustus Tolton was the first recognized African-American Catholic priest in the United States. Mm-hmm. He was actually born a slave and became a priest. He was born in 1854 and studied in Rome, because if you think about the climate of the United States at the time, he could not attend seminaries here in the United States. So he actually was ordained in Rome and actually was slated to go to Africa. And he thought he would be a missionary in Africa, but actually was sent back to the United States to minister here in this country.
What a trailblazer,
Yes.
and a pioneer, and a man of tremendous courage and convictions to blaze
true.
a path.
That
like
is true, because when you think about, like I said, everything that he had to endure, and being ordained, in Rome, coming back to the United States, and truly not having a place to go. And so just the fact that he actually was from Illinois, and so a church was actually was established for him. And he was loved by the people, and unfortunately died at a very young age.
Well, we're all looking very much forward to seeing the play. Now, I know one of the first things that parents and families around the diocese are going to be asking is the play suitable for all ages? Can we bring the entire family?
10 and up, because there are some things that, for an adult content, nothing dramatic.
Exactly.
But just,
And
10 and
that's
up.
easy to understand when you consider all of the things that
True.
Father Tolton had to get through
That is
and the
true.
obstacles he had to overcome, most
true.
definitely. Now, tell us a little bit about the author of the play. Who wrote Tolton, From Slave to Priest?
Actually, it's from St. Luke Production, and actually Bishop Ricard actually worked with them. When you look at the whole cause for Tolton play, it actually, there's a bishop, the United States Black bishop, who's been working with them. So St. Luke Production, in conjunction with the bishop, have been working on the play, and actually it's based on the book. The book is entitled From Slave to Priest as well. So it's a one-act play, one man, and the actor is Jim Coleman. And many people may remember Jim Coleman because Jim Coleman was actually Roger Parker in the hit Nickelodeon My Brother and Me.
Yes.
And so he has been traveling across the country with the play. The play is not only going to be here in Lafayette, it actually will be featured in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Lake Charles. So we're really, it's really wonderful that we can actually have it here for the people in our diocese.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
And then after the Tolton play is in our diocese in Louisiana, will it continue on a
Yes.
nationwide tour?
I don't know exactly where, but I know that we were actually at the National Black Catholic Congress, and we actually saw snippets, and different dioceses were signing up for the production. So it is something that's going across the country.
And Jim Coleman is such a talented
Yes.
actor. I can't wait to see what he brings to this role. It's going to be wonderful. Now, when and where will the play be staged, and what time will the doors open?
Okay, the first show is Thursday, December 6th at St. Pius Elementary School, and it starts at 7. The doors open at 6, and the second feature is December 7th, Friday, December 7th. So it's at St. Pius the 10th Elementary School, 205 East Bayou Parkway. and admission is $25.
Okay. And how do we go about buying our tickets?
Well, actually, you can purchase the tickets online. We do have access to online purchase, and people could just go to the diocesan website, www.diolaf.org, and it's actually featured under the Centennial Celebration. And also, they can call the office, and we have tickets. I have several people who will be going around to different church parishes, and we'll be selling them after Mass at various church parishes.
That's a great idea.
Yes.
Definitely a great idea. Now, is there a place or a website that we can visit if we'd like to learn more about the particular play, about Tolton from Slave to Priest, or about St. Luke Productions
Exactly.
in general?
Well, actually, by visiting www.toltondrama.com and www.stlukeproduction.com. And so there's a lot of information. Also, Crossroads Bookstore here will actually be featuring some of the books.
Oh,
We
that's wonderful.
actually sent a list to them, and so they will have books. And hopefully the night of the play, they will be selling books as well.
And that would be a great way to prepare yourself for the play. I know a lot of
Exactly.
people do that with movies as well. They'll
Exactly.
get the book first
Exactly.
and then be able to view the performance. And it kind of deepens your understanding of the
That is
topic.
true.
Now, we talked a little bit about Jim Coleman. Anything else that you'd like to share about the actor? He's tremendously talented, and he must be a man of great faith to be devoting his life to
Yes.
bringing this character to life.
I think in just talking with him and reading some of the information, because of the fact that Tolton is the first black, hopefully will be the first black person canonized. And when you think about the richness of our Catholic faith, and even when you think about the whole sainthood process, and I think that's something that we really need to look at, because, in our time, to actually have someone who will be able to learn and listen to aspects of his life, which wasn't easy when you think about everything that was going on at the time. But the fact that he's on the road to sainthood, I mean, a
incredibly
modern day
exciting.
saint.
Yeah, so exciting. Now, of course, speaking of canonization and sainthood, there are no American-born black saints, and in addition, as you mentioned earlier, in addition to Father Tolton, there are 4 other black-born Americans
Yes.
who are on the road to sainthood.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, one is Mother Mary Lange, and Mother Mary Lange was the founder of the Oblate Sisters in Baltimore, and her ministry was working and caring for blacks in the Baltimore area. And the Oblate Sisters were the first successful religious community for women of African descent. In addition to Mother Mary Lange, we have Pierre Toussaint, and a lot of people are familiar with Pierre Toussaint. Pierre Toussaint is actually venerable at this moment. He was born into slavery in Haiti, so he's not American born, but he's on the road to be canonized as well. And Toussaint was a free man, a successful businessman and philanthropist in the New York City area. In addition to that, we have Julia Greeley. And Julia Greeley, very interesting story, I actually was reading about her. And Julia Greeley was a very poor woman. But she was the type that, although she was poor and was in need of charity, she did a lot of charitable works for the people. She is actually from the Denver area. She too was born into slavery in Hannibal, Missouri, sometime between 1833 and 1848. And she would enter the church and every month and every day just about visit on foot, walking around to the different fire stations and different communities, getting goods, food and clothing for people, Catholic and non-Catholic, who were in need. And the other who is no stranger to our area is Mother Henriette DeLille. Mother Henriette DeLille was the founder of the Holy Family Sisters, and I think everyone is familiar with the Holy Family Sisters, because when you think about Holy Family School, Immaculate Heart of Mary, even Holy Ghost and Opelousas, the Holy Ghost Sisters were the educators, in our Catholic schools. So Mother Henriette DeLille, she's actually venerable as well, and she was a free woman of color from New Orleans and founded the Sisters of the Holy Family, and again ministered to the slaves and again, was very active in this area. So there's some that we can identify with. I mean, we have people out there who are educated, with and by the Holy Family Sisters. So we're excited. In addition to these 5, there's also another person who a cause will probably be open, because in Mississippi this year, I think in February of 2018, there was a move to start looking into the life of Sister Thea Bowman. And Sister Thea Bowman was a noted theologian who actually came to this area. I actually had the privilege of driving Sister Thea Bowman around when she actually came to a workshop. She, so actually some of us actually attended her funeral. But Sister Thea Bowman was a young woman who was struck with cancer, but was very, could say she was a teacher preacher. And so there's a movement to open the door for her road to canonization. And we're excited because, in our church history, we have a lot of African saints, but we don't have any that are American Black saints. And that's why it's really important that when we look at the lives of these wonderful people and look how they contribute to and built up the church in the United States in some facet. It is exciting.
It's going to be exciting to watch the process
unfold. It is.
Now, we understand also that there is a connection to another American-born saint who's very well known in the field of education, and that's Mother Catherine Drexel.
Yes. Father Tolton actually had a relationship with Catherine Drexel. He actually petitioned Catherine Drexel when he was in Illinois. She actually gave a sum of money, and I want to say it was like $30,000 to contribute to the education of people in the Quincy and Chicago area. And as you know, when we look around our diocese, Catherine Drexel put her stamp on Assumption and Karen Crow. I don't want to misname, but I think probably like churches in all around the diocese. I say safe to say that. So a lot of excitement is brewing, and the 5 that are on the road, they're in different stages. As like we have Servant of God, like Mother Mary Lange and Augustus Tolton, are servants, and that's the first process. Because of course you know that there's a whole step, because the first step is having them declared servant of God, where basically a cause, people have studied their life and looked at everything that they've done, and then they've been deemed servants of God. The next step is venerable, and that's where the Sacred Congregation for Causes evaluate and approve the candidate, and then they're declared venerable. So Henriette DeLille has been known as venerable, and Pierre Toussaint. So they're a little bit ahead of Augustus Tolton and the rest. Yeah, on the road. And so then, we look forward to, because apparently with Augustus Tolton, that just this past year, some things were presented to the Congregation of Sacred Causes of Saints. And so he will probably, maybe by the end of this year or next year, probably be moved up to bless, because I think there's already miracles, 2 miracles, because as you know, miracles are part of the process for the canonization. So so hopefully within the next few years or so, we'll see some movement.
And we've been talking a lot about canonization lately, because recently Pope Paul VI, Blessed Oscar Romero were named saints. So sometimes it appears on the outside that canonization is kind of an open and shut case, but it's far from that.
It's a long process.
It's a lot of steps, and as you mentioned, 2 miracles. Can you tell us anything else about the process of canonization you think our viewers would be interested in?
I think the whole thing too, that after one more miracle, say there's 2, the Pope will canonize the saint, and that's where the person, his whole life or her whole life, is that the person lived a holy life. We believe that the person is in heaven, and that the person deserves to be honored by the universal church, because although it's they're black-born saints, they're saints for everyone, because when you look at the impact that they made on the lives of people, it wasn't just for one community. It was the betterment of all lives, betterment of the church, because they lived a Christian and holy life, which we all should exemplify. I think even when we look at Augustus Tolton and we think about everything that he went through and endured, but he wanted to be a priest. You know, that going through slavery, because even when you think about his life, that his mother, you know, after her husband joined, and he fought for the Civil War, and during that time that the mother took her children and tried to escape to a better place, which she actually, you know, the story goes that a lot of people helped her as she journeyed and hid her children to give them a better life. And then even after the Civil War, having, you know, picking up and everything, the war that divided the country, that there was a love for the church and a love for God. And that even with Augustine, because I can't imagine enduring so much, but wanting to serve the church. And so then you have the whole thing about reconciliation, you know, the love of the Eucharist, you know, and everything that he held dear. That even the fact that here you have this young man born into slavery, and, you know, he goes on a ship to Rome, not knowing the language and things like that. But the desire to be a priest was so, it burned in his heart, you know, and that, you know, through everything, all of the obstacles, it happened. And I want to say he died at the age of 42 years old after returning home from a retreat. And said that I think that he collapsed in the middle of the street on a hot day.
So young.
Yeah,
Only
but again, 42 years old. So when you, I said, just his life. And I was just awestruck by everything that he endured. And then even when you look at the lives of all of the others, Pierre Toussaint and all of them, that they gave of themselves to people. And when you think about, you know, what's lacking in the world today, it's that selfless love to give of ourselves. Yeah. What does it mean, you know, to do that? So I think that that's something that I'm really, and I'm hoping that people take time about from their busy lives to just come and celebrate and learn about who he was and what he gave to the church. Because from everything that we know about him, he gave his all. You know, so,
literally.
Yeah,
his
literally
entire
gave
life.
us, yes.
And
yes.
to think that the Holy Spirit guided so many different people in his life to help make that happen, in particular his mother.
That is true. The mother, and then I think even some of the priests, because even when, in reading about his life, you know, that he went through a lot of stuff inside the church and outside of the church, but still wanted to be part of the church. You know, because of the fact that he really and truly believed in the church.
God had chosen him.
Yes, that's true.
And spoken to him, and he knew it. He heard the call.
Because one of the things, too, that when you read it of his life, he wasn't even offered an education as a young man. I think he learned to read when he was a teenager. And then even because he could not be part of the school, that there was a tutor, I think one of the priests took him under his wings and he tutored him, taught him Latin, you know, and he was able to master Latin, you know, even before going into the seminary, that there were things that he was able to be prepared for. And even though it was like, okay, we'll let you in, we got a spot for you. No, we don't have a place for you. So even that back and forth, you know, but again, truly wanting to be part of the church.
And to think, it not only did the Holy Spirit burn in him and this determination to be a priest, he had to have been an absolutely brilliant man, a genius, to have been able to grasp all of the academic and theological aspects that are involved in studying for the priesthood. I mean, that's just, it's absolutely amazing.
It is interesting. And, you know, even we don't even realize that, you know, he ministered to the people, but even to this day, there are things that he participated that we are still part of. In 1889, Father Tolton was the first speaker for the National Black Catholic Congress. And the National Black Catholic Congress is an event that to this day, we as African American Catholics, every 5 years, we gather to look at, what's happening in our church, look at, the needs of our African American community. The last the National Black Catholic Congress was held in 2017 in Orlando. And out of that, we looked at the different issues that are taking place today that we need to be aware of, that we need to work on. And those issues were racism, domestic violence, mass incarceration, mental illness, because even in the African American community, there are some things even to this day we just don't talk about. We know, and here we are in Louisiana, and I don't think we're no longer the mass incarceration capital of the world. I think we lost that to Oklahoma or something like that.
Yes.
One of the, but we're still
we
up
used
there.
To hold the title
we
until
used to tell recently.
Yeah.
I think maybe this year, and so those are some issues that we look at, that and what's happening, to our community, what's happening to our brothers and sisters who look like me, may not look like you, but they're still your brothers and sisters in Christ. And so just the fact that when you look at how the National Black Catholic Congress came to be in 1889, it was the fact that, we have a group of people out there and they're not in right relationship with the Lord, with the church, and not not on their own doing, but it's like, what do we need to do to make it right? And so there's a lot of good things that are still happening, from this man and a group who put this together. He, along with Daniel Rudd, established that.
It's just amazing that in addition to everything that he had to go through to become a priest, he also founded a movement that is still so urgent and important to this day, to present day.
Because how do we enrich the church? Looking at the needs of a community, and even looking at how do we evangelize, wholeheartedly or, holistically.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, November, Stephanie, is National Black Catholics Month. And now, why is it so important that our young people, not only our Catholic young people, but young people throughout our communities, why is it so important that they know not only African American history, but also the important African American history in the Catholic Church and the major role that Black Catholics have played in building and strengthening our church?
Sadly, the story hasn't been told. When you think about it, because everything, it's layers and layers, that Blacks from the beginning of time have been involved with the church. It goes back from the beginning.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't even realize that there were 3 African popes. That when you think about the popes, it's like you think about the Italians and different ones, but 3 African popes were part of the church. When you think about even the saints, that we have Blacks who have been sainted. We think about everyone, is familiar with St. Augustine and St. Monica and Perpetual and Felicita. And so the thing is that we have been part of the church. And not only have we been part of the church, we've actually, brought our gifts. And so, in order to look at a family, we have to celebrate and acknowledge everyone in the family. And I think that's the main thing of looking at Black Catholic history. What are the gifts that we brought to the church that has brought us thus far?
Exactly. And that's especially true here in the Diocese of Lafayette.
It's true.
It's such a part of our history that we celebrate, and part of our wonderful...
We are a diverse diocese.
Yes, most definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I think that's one of the
Now,
things.
let's go back to talking about the play again, Tolton from Slave to Priest. It's being brought here through your efforts, and I know that you won't take credit for it, but I'm going to give you credit for it because I know how hard you worked to make this happen. It's being brought here through your efforts as director of the Office of Black Catholics. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the Office of Black Catholics and some of the other activities and events and causes that you're involved in throughout the entire year?
Okay, the Office of Black Catholic Ministries was actually established in 1973 by Bishop Fry, our 3rd bishop. And the mission of the office is to educate and witness to the community by providing opportunities for spiritual, educational, cultural, and ministerial growth to the African American community within our diocese. So I love what I do because I get to dabble in every aspect of the church. In addition to the Tolton play, every year we have our annual Dr. Martin Luther King celebration where we recognize the contributions that people have made to the church, black and white, all those who exemplify the traits of Dr. Martin Luther King. We also have our African American Catholic Youth Congress, which is the peer-on-peer leadership program where we actually bring in groups of kids and we talk about the different issues that they're facing. It's like, how do we bring them into the church to give them a grasp and just give them even a way to talk to their own, evangelize, and again, witness and affirm the gifts. In addition to that, we actually do different workshops for our African American community. There was a women conference that we've had and several things that are going on. We also work with the different parish pastoral councils, extraordinary minister trainings, everything that pertains to the African American churches. And here people, it's like, well, we have African American churches. We have churches in our diocese, 45 churches that are predominantly black Catholic churches. And so we work with the catechetical programs and everything. So any and every aspect of ministry dealing with black Catholics, because of the fact, as we stated earlier, we have a large percentage of black Catholics in our diocese. At least 74,000 Catholics in this diocese are African American, just as we have an office for Hispanic ministry, Vietnamese. The whole thing is to look at the gifts and the makeup of our church. So we dabble in every aspect of the church and then work in collaboration with the other offices. We work with the Office of Pro-Life Ministry, we work with Catholic schools, everything, just to make sure that all needs are being met.
You're a very busy
Yes.
lady. And I know that. I get to see it firsthand.
Thank you.
So once again, if you can remind us, Stephanie, once again, Tolton from Slave to Priest, how can we buy tickets?
The tickets are available online or by calling my office, 261-5694, and the play, 2 dates, Thursday, December 6th and Friday, December 7th. The play starts at 7 p.m. The doors open at 6, and it's at St. Pius Elementary School, the auditorium, and the tickets are $25.
And if you missed any of that information, please feel free to give Stephanie or me a call, or you can log on to our website, www.diolaf.org. And if you click on the Centennial Celebration, you'll be able to find out more. Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us for this edition of Catholics Today. And as one of your co-workers, thank you for all you do. I get a chance to see firsthand every day just how hard you work to make our diocese the very best it can be, and all of us are very grateful and very proud to call you our friend as well.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Stephanie Bernard today, Director of the Office of Black Catholics for the Diocese of Lafayette. Don't miss Tolton from Slave to Priest. It will be an absolute, enjoyable, and probably life-changing experience. Thanks for being with us for Catholics Today. We look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, goodbye.